What's going on, my friend, and welcome to this training. So this is a two-part training that you're going to see on this page. The first part of this training is all about sales and objection handling and using these strategies, right? You're going to be able to close 70% plus like my clients do, right? Here we have some screenshots for proof, and this is going to be on deals of 3,800, as you can see here for Jack, maybe 3K, but all the way up to 5, 6, 7, or even 10 grand, okay? So how are we going to do this? Well, first, as I said, the first part of this training is all about increasing that closing rate by pre-handling objections and building so much certainty that these objections don't even come up in the first place, okay? That's part one. But what's going to be of a lot of interest to you, my friend, is part two of this training, which is all about how you can get qualified calls booked in your calendar every single week without paid ads, without funnels, or any complicated tech, okay? So using these two strategies, the lead gen process we're going to look at in the next training, you're going to see how you can get 5, 6, or even 8 highly qualified calls booked in the calendar every single week. But using what we're about to jump into right now, my friend, you'll be able to close 70% of the people that you pitch to, okay? And with a 70% closing rate, as you can see here, only 16 calls a month to have 8 new clients come into the business. And at a 3K price point, my friend, that's 20K cash, okay? So 16 calls, that's 4 a week. So when you have this really strong closing rate, my friend, you don't need, right? You don't need a massive audience. You don't need paid ads. You don't even need that many calls getting booked, okay? Obviously, you do need calls booked in the calendar, otherwise you can't close clients. But when you have this 70% closing rate, as Gene does, right, as Jack does, as Ollie does here, when you have that, right, incredible things really start to happen. Look at Jack here, okay? So 7K within 30 days, right? A 600% increase in revenue. We're looking at that here, right? From 2K months to 15K weeks, right, within 30 days. And this isn't because they're getting on multiple calls a day, right? This is because we get their closing rate so high. And we'll go into exactly how all of that happens, okay? But there's this one really, really important principle that you need to keep in mind. All sales and marketing comes down to this one thing. And if currently you're struggling on your sales calls, if currently, you're facing a lot of objections like, I want time to think about it, or I need to speak with my partner, I need more info. When you realize this, you're going to realize the real source of objections. You're going to realize that those objections are just bullshit. Okay, now who is this training for? Okay, and who are our services for here at Sales Scale? So a high ticket offer, and it's validated. At this stage, you've been in the game for a few years. This isn't your first rodeo, so to speak, right? You've been around the block. Okay, you're highly motivated. You have the work ethic. You can tap into that kind of warrior mode mindset and get it done. No consistency in terms of the client acquisition. Things are kind of happening randomly. A lot of clients are probably coming from referral or inbound. People are finding you online. And we're going to look at why that's a problem. But my friend, as I mentioned a moment ago, the first part of this training is all about increasing that closing rate. Okay, so most coaches never stop to consider this. Okay, but the average closing rate in the online coaching space is 10%, right? Between 10 and 20%. Now, most people, as I said, they haven't stopped to consider it. You can go ahead and Google that right now, but if you don't address that, that will prevent you from ever really and truly scaling this business, okay? Because if you look at these numbers, but let's imagine that these numbers are actually feasible. Who would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy that needs 120 calls or the guy that just needs 16? Okay, it's so much less work and it's actually possible. This isn't, right? Obviously, if you're trying to hit 10K months, we can half these. It's still 60 calls a month, right? Versus 8. You see the difference there? And if right now it feels like you're on the hamster wheel doing everything under the sun, trying to get calls booked in the calendar, but if it just feels like you're doing all of this work, posting on all these different platforms, desperately trying to get those calls in, but it just feels like it's never enough, this is exactly why. All right, so my friend, realize that in order to actually scale your business, this is where the solution lies. The solution isn't going harder on TikTok. We're doing twice the amount of reels. The solution isn't more content. The solution isn't more marketing. Like in the gym, in gym culture, right? That you can't out-train a bad diet. That's what most people are trying to do in their business. They're trying to out-market shitty closing. Okay, 10% closing rate is diabolical. It's terrible. Okay, so we're going to jump into the iPad now in a second and look at exactly why most people close at that 10 to 20% and how we can fix that situation so that you can scale your business taking 4 or 5 calls a week. And again, that's all that's required with a 70% closing rate to do 20K months. Okay, and that's cash. Okay. All right. So most people have a block in their sales, right? And what they're trying to do is make up for it with more marketing. So they have a 10% closing rate and they're trying to make up for it with more top of funnel. Okay. Of course, the goal of marketing, right, is getting attention and turning that attention into leads. And then the goal of sales is to turn those leads into buyers, into clients. Okay, so if you've got a breakdown in the sales, what you have to do is actually handle it at the source, right? Not try to make up for it with more marketing. Okay, you can't make up for a bad diet with more training, right? You can't make up for bad sales with more marketing. Okay. The good news here, my friend, is that these are the 3 areas of business. Right? You might realize that retention we can call offer / delivery. All right, making your offer and delivery so good that everybody that works with you wants to continue working with you. Everybody that you work with 3 months ends up sticking with you. Everybody that works with you refers a client. Now, that's what having really strong retention and offer delivery is all about. All right, Alex Hormozi, $100 million offers. All right, now Alex Hormozi, $100 million leads. All right, the next book will be sales, but you cannot make up for the shitty sales system with more marketing. Okay, so why is it most people close at that 10%? Okay, well, it comes down to this, right? So, of course, what's happening is you're facing objections. Okay, if there was no objections, the prospect would be doing it. Sales is all of this, right? You're asking the prospect to make a commitment. You're asking for something. You're asking for a commitment in terms of their time, their money, and their energy. And the bigger that commitment is, the more certainty you have to build. And building certainty is your responsibility. It's the whole name of the game in sales. And if you're asking for a big commitment, you need to build a bigger certainty. So much certainty that this just becomes a hell yes for them. Right. So what we've got to do is get clear on what is the desired result. We've got to show them that the investment is, of course, justified by the result or the outcome that he's aiming for. Right? Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. But we also have to build certainty about how our solution is going to collect him from where he is, delivering him to his goals, even if he's failed in the past. Right? We have to show him how our solution is going to help him navigate the blocks and the challenges that are keeping him stuck. Now, ultimately, this is all about showing the prospect that we understand their situation better than they do. Right? And showing them what's really, or helping them see what's really keeping them stuck. Right? Only then do we enlighten them on how our process can work. Right? So the whole very start of your sales process, 70% of the sales call itself, is information gathering, identifying where is this pain island? What's the situation on that island? What's the situation? It's like reconnaissance. What's the situation? What would be the situation in this promised land? All right, what's going on? How is this all making him feel? People are motivated by emotion. Right? How's it making him feel at the moment to be stuck here? And how will he feel when he achieves this? Right? People move away from pain and towards pleasure. It's the pleasure principle, Freud, Psychology 101. Okay? So we elicit all of this information at the start. We help him see the gap between these two things and what's holding him back. And then we enlighten him on the better way. We enlighten him on how our solution can get him across. So that's the name of the game in sales. And it all comes to this, right? Building so much certainty that it just becomes a fuck yes for the client. Right? Now, what happens when we don't build enough certainty? Well, when we don't build enough certainty, guess what we get? We get objections. We get time to think about it. We get the partner objection. We get, bad times. Right? Not a good time of the year. Let's start next quarter, next year. Right? We get, send me more info. Right? Send me testimonials. Info. I want to check out other competitors. All of this stuff. The prospect was 10 out of 10 certain that your solution was going to work for him. If he was certain that your solution was going to take him from his pain island and deliver him to the goal, if he knew that it was going to work, and he was certain about it, you wouldn't face time to think about it. If he was certain that this was going to work for him, you wouldn't hear the partner objection. You wouldn't hear, send me more info. Right? You wouldn't hear, I'm confident about handling this myself. Right? If he was certain about this working for him, you wouldn't face any of these objections, because these, my friend, are all certainty-based objections. The real source of the objection is uncertainty. The prospect just isn't bought in enough, right, for the commitment that you're asking. There is also obstacle objections. Okay, so of course, there's people who are totally flat broke. They just don't have the finances. People who don't have the time. Let's say some sort of Elon Musk character probably doesn't have the time for group coaching. Right? So there's an obstacle in the way, right? Or there's people who don't have the power to decide. Right? Say they're a teenager or something, right? They don't have the autonomy to invest. We want to make sure that our prospect, right, has the finances, they have the time, they have the power to decide. We want to make sure that they actually have the problem that we solve. Right? We only want to pitch people that fit this criteria. Right? We only want to pitch somebody once we know that they have the problem, right? They have the power to decide, they have the time to implement, and that they have the finances. Right? I mean, we know their exact financial situation. Right? If we know their exact financial situation, we know they have the power, we know they have the problem, right? We know they have the time to implement. Right? Another caveat is that you actually want to work with this person. Right? If they tick all these boxes, The only other thing that can be holding them back is that the prospect just isn't certain. Even if they had the money, if they weren't certain, they wouldn't do it. Right? Even if they had the time, the money, the power, the problem, if they're not certain that your solution is going to take them from where they are and deliver them to their goal, if they're not bought in, and I mean bought in 100%, they're still going to give some bullshit objection. They might even say that they don't have the money, right? But the fact of the matter is, even if they did, if they're not certain, they're not going forward. Okay, my friend. So the name of the game in sales is all about building that red hot 10 out of 10 certainty. And when you do that, you won't face these objections on the left hand side. You won't face time to think about it. You won't face the partner objection. Right? When you build that 10 out of 10 certainty, the prospect is enthusiastic and you'll see it. Right? You'll see it before you even present your offer. You'll know that this person is ready to close. Now, on top of that, the most common objection you're probably facing yourself at the moment, is probably finance. Okay, so using our systems, the 4-stage finance filter, you're only going to pitch to people once you know their exact financial situation. When I say exact, I mean exact. You're going to know exactly how much money they have coming in each month from whatever different sources. So from their salary, you're going to know exactly how much money they've going out every month. So their expenses, you're going to know what's left over to invest right away from their salary, but you're also going to know exactly what they have saved, right? You're going to know what assets they have. Right? And with that picture, you're going to know exactly how much you could close them for. You're going to know if they can go for a paid in full, or you're going to know if it's best to present on a payment plan. Or even that alone, if you only pitched your offer to people who you knew had the money, of course, if that's your most common objection that you face at the moment, if you only pitch to people who had the money, of course, that would increase your closing rate. But on top of that, my friend, when we build this 10 out of 10 certainty in every prospect, everybody who has the money, my friend, your closing rate is going to go through the roof. And that's exactly what those different guys, clients of mine, do. That's exactly why clients of mine are able to close at 70% plus. And we're going to see more proof of that now in a second. But right, the next question then should be, okay, so I get it, that certainty and building certainty is how you increase your closing rate. I get that certainty. In sales, we're asking for a commitment from the prospect. I need to build certainty. If I build enough certainty, it becomes a fuck yes for the client and for the prospect. The next question is, how do I build that certainty? My friend, so we do that with this process here, which is the SEGIT system. Okay, you can see these 5 steps. Only on step 4 do we enlighten the prospect on how our solution works. The majority of sales really comes down to just asking so much questions that the prospect sells themselves. And that's what we're doing here. Right? The whole start of this is that information gathering, right? Where we identify where the prospect is now, right? And where it is they want to be in the future. Right? We identify the emotional charge. What's the pain that they're in currently? And what's the pleasure that they want to achieve? How will that make them feel? Right? Again, people are motivated by emotion. Then next we have the gap, right? Helping the prospect see why they failed in the past. What's really holding them back, right? And once we know all of that, then we enlighten them on how our process is going to work for them, right? And then we transform. We transform that prospect into a client and we close them. Okay? This, my friend, you can see certainty at the very center, right? This whole process is designed to get crystal clear on where the prospect is currently, where it is they're looking to go, the emotional charge, and what's holding them back. And only then do you sell them on how your solution can help them, right? But now you understand their situation at such a deep level that you can show them and build so much certainty about how this process is going to work. Okay, so my friend, that's exactly how clients of mine are able to close at such a high level. On one side, right? On one side, they're only pitching to people who meet this criteria. So they're only pitching to people who have the problem that they solve. Right? They're only pitching to people who have the power and the time. And they're only ever pitching once they understand this person's exact financial situation. And if you did that, of course, that alone would massively increase your closing rate. But on top of that, we build this 10 out of 10 certainty, my friend. You'll start closing people left and right. And as I said, average closing rate for clients of mine, 70%. Okay, there's clients that close above that, but 70% average. Okay, but even just with a 50% closing rate, right, even with a 50% closing rate, if you need 6 or 8 new clients a month, right, well, that means we need to pitch 12 to 18. Okay. So what are we talking about there for 18? 4, right? 4 a week. Okay, so it's not a whole amount of calls that's actually needed at that point. So coming back here, my friend, again, with a 70% closing rate, it's not a whole lot of calls that we actually need, right? Again, with a 3K price point, 8 to 10 clients a month. Well, look here, so 16 to 20 calls. Okay, so 4 to 5 a week. Okay, it's not a huge amount of volume, but the key to be able to do this is having that strong closing rate. And as you can see here, Gene with a 90% closing rate on a $3,800 offer. Ollie here, who was very early into the process at this stage, 70% closing rate. Jack, 75% closing rate. And you're going to see many others also. As a matter of fact, here we are with some further some further proof of all of this, right? So Gene, as I said, implemented this process to go from 0 to tons, right? Ben, as a NoFap coach, teaches guys, helps guys get over porn addiction, closing guys for 3 to 4K. Right? Same thing goes for Arez here. He's doing 8K months as a 23-year-old dating coach from the US. Right? Same thing for Emiliano here. There's further testimonials here. You got Leo, you got Alex. Right, here we have screenshots. Another close for Jack 4K, another one for Jack 1.9, another one for Jack 1K collected. Here's a screenshot from Jack actually. So that's $7,400, right? 600% increase in his revenue, right? A month into the process, right? But this just goes on and on. And by all means, look, there's more on this next page here. Okay, so Jeremy went from 0 to 11K in sales in just a few weeks in the program, so less than a month in the program. Right, Arez went from 0 to 8K months in 3 months, right? Ending his dry streak, more than doubled his price point and brought his closing rate to 6%, right? I'm going to my Instagram stories here, right? This all just continues. There's just stacks and stacks of results from clients of mine. There's Leo, 7.5K cash collected. For Leo, I think that was in July, yeah. As a dating coach in Latin America, right? And you better believe, right? Of course, in Latin America, a place with a lower purchasing power, it's a whole lot harder to close high ticket. But Leo, following these strategies, both on the sales process, right, and on lead gen, what you're about to see next, he's been able to make it happen. And if he can make it happen as a dating coach in Latin America, you can make it happen as well. Here's another one from Jack, right? 3,800 a week into the process, doubled his price point. Right, here's Devin actually. Devin just got signed up a few weeks ago and his first sales call closed for 3,000. Luke, 2.5K paid in full, right? In an hour-long sales call. And who else have we got here? Matt, right? From 2K to 14K weeks, right? 2K months to 14K weeks. Right, here's Jack again. Okay. And there's more, right? By all means, go through my Instagram stories here if you want further proof of all of these claims that I'm making. The key to really hitting these 10K months, with these 15K, 20K, 30K, it's not about more calls, right? Of course, you need calls booked in the calendar, but if you have a 10% closing rate, my friend, you're going to constantly be on that hamster wheel. You're going to be that AFC, average frustrated coach, who says, if only I could get more calls, right? He doesn't realize the actual thing that's holding him back is that 10% closing rate. So my friend, don't be a blind man, be a strategist, right? Solve this problem at its actual root, which is all about certainty, building enough certainty so it becomes a fuck yes for the client, right? And when you do that, and you have this 70% closing rate, 4 to 5 calls a week to hit 20K cash months. Okay, that is very easy to do, right? Very easy to fulfill upon. Okay, versus this year, we're talking about 4 to 5 calls a day, right? With a 5-day week. My friend, I think I know that you want to be this person, right? You want to be the guy that can scale his business without getting burnt out in the process. Right? You started, most likely, yes, you started this business with the intention of helping people. But you also, part of the reason you pursue this path of online business, right, however many years ago you started, it's probably for freedom. Right? And if you look at this on the left-hand side, this does not look very freeing. Right? However, this on the right-hand side, it's a different story. Okay, my friends, so go ahead, watch this part 2 of this training, which is all about lead gen. Okay, what's really going to shift things for you, my friend, is jumping onto that strategy session. Okay, so go ahead, watch part 2 of this training. Right, take any notes. Right, I'd actually ask you to jot down 3 or 4 or 5 questions that you have for me on that strategy session. Okay, these systems, as you can see, right, they're proven. You've seen the testimonials. What's more important than just a proven system is aptly applying those strategies for your unique situation. Because if we just copy and paste shit that's working elsewhere into your business, that doesn't always work. What does work is copying those proven strategies and systems and dialing them in for your specific situation. And that's what we're going to do on that strategy session. So best case scenario, my friend, right, is that you're like, yeah, Matt, I want help implementing this. We work together for 3 or for 6 months, and we end up working together for years. And that's always my goal and objective, is serve somebody so well in that first engagement that they want to continue working together. Okay, that's best case scenario, honestly, for both of us. Worst case scenario is we map out this full strategy and process, not just the proven process, but we map out how to apply it for your business, and you go ahead and implement it yourself. So there is no downside. Jump on this call. Jump on this call. We'll be doing this together. Go ahead now. Watch part 2 of this training. So scroll down below here and click for part 2, which is the lead gen strategy. Okay, how you can get those 4, 5, or even 8 calls, highly qualified prospects booked in your calendar every single week. When we have these two things running in tandem, the certainty building process using the Segit system, and we have the organic lead gen machine firing, getting those calls booked, my friend, there's nothing stopping you from finally scaling your business to these 15 or even 30K months and beyond in the next 60 days. Okay, my friends, so I look forward to that strategy session. Go ahead now and jump into that next training. And please take some notes and ask me any questions. Take some notes, jot down a few questions to ask me on the strategy session. Okay, my friend, peace.